Hi, I'm Melissa. Welcome to Wed and Worth It. We're going to have transparent conversations around budgets and walk through the emotional journey that is wedding planning. We're going to discuss the value of investing in meaningful moments and the joy that comes from creating an experience for yourselves and your loved ones. We talk to newly married couples to find out, was it worth it? Hi, we have Renee with us today, and she got married in West Virginia in 2024, correct?
That's right.
That's
October
right.
bride.
An October bride. Okay, so tell me.
We're so rare.
Yeah, no, I know. That's why I was like, West Virginia, right? That's what's in my brain. But we've been chatting back and forth, and so I'm like, wait, I need to double check. Okay, so tell me about you and your husband, how you all met and got engaged.
Absolutely. So my husband and I were born 3 days apart. We both just turned 36, and we have known each other for almost 22 years. Our story is adorable.
Is it like sweethearts?
Not necessarily. So
No. Okay.
let me give you the whole spiel.
All right.
So
Give me the whole spiel.
we met in the ninth grade. We met in a freshman honors science class. Now, we had gone to different middle school, junior high, so we did not know each other, but we just, everybody walks in, sits down, first day of school, and he happened to take the desk behind mine. Now, we hadn't engaged at this point. I just saw, cute little handsome Italian man, boy, sitting behind me, boy, at that point, right? And, West Virginia, you don't see a lot of Italians wondering about, but what made this so funny is that our teacher for the class was also Italian, and well, maybe I shouldn't say his full name. It was a very, very Italian name. Actually, I really like him, but this was not his best moment. So he's pulling the instructor, and I'll preface this by saying my mom was the librarian at our high school, so I already knew most of the teachers and staff there because of that. So I was already aware of this guy and already liked the teacher, but he was not having a good day, it seemed. So he's going through the roll, and he gets to my husband's name, which is Giuseppe, which is deeply Italian. It's about as Italian as
I don't know if
right?
that's a lot of syllables.
Yeah. So, he's, I always say he sounded like, the Clear Eyes commercial, the eye drops with the guy with the really monotone Clear Eyes voice, right? He responded like this. So he says, Giuseppe, Giuseppe goes, here, disgruntled 14-year-old. And usually if someone goes by something other than their first name, when they're calling the roll on the first day of class, they'll say, here, I go by, and then whatever it is, right? Nickname, middle name, whatever.
Sure.
He just said here. Well, the teacher, who went by a nickname for his first very Italian name, right, assumed that everybody else did. So he said, Giuseppe, what do you go by, Giuseppe? And Giuseppe says, Giuseppe.
Giuseppe.
Yeah, so it was funny. Everyone laughed. So instead of just being like, okay, just checking, our teacher doubles down on it because it's awkward, and he's like, oh, well, that's really weird of you. All right, and is rude to him about his name. And little baby advocate Renee was like, that's not okay, right? So I turned around and I said, oh my goodness, I said, that was so rude. Are you all right? And also hello. And he said, oh, it's fine. And he said, I get weird stuff about my name all the time, and we became friends. And we were pretty close through school and stuff. But we both had relationships with other people and things like that. And then we both went to different universities in West Virginia, though. So 3-4 hours apart. So we would see each other over holiday breaks, school breaks, and stuff like that. We would usually meet up, catch up. And then after college, he got a job in Baltimore, Maryland for a year. And then he moved to a Virginia Beach area where we live now in Virginia. He's worked for the same company ever since. But those first 2.5, 3 years out of school, I was still working in West Virginia. I was actually saving up money to move out west to Arizona.
Yep.
But those first few years out of school, anytime, that it was Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter breaks, things like that, he would always come in and visit family, and we would always, meet up, go get drinks or dinner or whatever. So, we were still seeing each other, but as friends catching up. Then I moved to Arizona right around when we both turned 25. And I was out there for several years. Did a couple of additional programs out there, did all my master's work and my environmental stuff that I do now. And I didn't come home all the time for holidays like he did, because it's a little more difficult coming from Arizona versus Virginia to West Virginia, right? So we didn't see each other for 3 or so years. And then one day I don't know, I was just hanging out at my house and I was like, I wonder what Giuseppe's up to. Because we would occasionally it had become much less frequent since we weren't seeing each other anymore, but we might text about like March Madness basketball or something, right?
Okay.
And I called him to see what he was doing. And he's like, oh, it's so good to hear from you. And we caught up. And he said, hey, don't you live like relatively close to Vegas? And I said, it's about 3.5, 4 hours away. Why? And he shared that he was going to Vegas the following month with some friends and he invited me to join. He said, I'd love for you to come. And I was like, well, I never say no to Vegas. And we went to Vegas. We had an awesome weekend. We had some great food, went to an awesome show. And then I took him hiking all over the place. It was July, but I lived in Arizona, so I was fine with it. He's like, it's 118 degrees out here.
In Arizona, I don't know if I'm fine with it.
I don't think I've told you this yet, but I actually do very well with the deeply oppressive heat. I can handle that all day. I'm really good at it. I'm a crazy person who can just get out in it and be unbothered. But so I also took him to Lake Mead, and then we went to Hoover Dam because he's an engineer and he got really excited about, apparently it hasn't fully cured yet. I don't know. It was just fact-palooza. So we had a really great time in the Vegas area. And then we just started flying back and forth across the country to see each other, me in Arizona and him in Virginia. And it became a thing. So then I was like, that feels
very official. That's not friends anymore.
Oh yeah, it was. After the Vegas trip, it was a relationship. Okay. And neither one of us expected that. I very much went into that like, this is gonna be a cool, fun, casual friend weekend.
Yes.
Oh, no. So we started flying back and forth. When I finished graduate school a few months later, I moved to Virginia for the first time for him because I didn't have anything lined up at the time. This was fall 2018. I was here for almost a year. And I was working out of field, which I was really upset about. And so I was still looking for work everywhere. And I ended up getting a job in California as a wildlife biologist in Northern California. And I said no to it because I didn't want to leave him. And he's like, well, I don't want to stand in the way of your dreams. So he encouraged me to go take the role, knowing that the intent was for me to build up experience and then ultimately come back. So that was really tough. So I went out there for about a year and a half. COVID happened in the middle of that. So then everything had a hiring freeze. And when September 2020, we finally just said, we're tired of being apart. I didn't have anything figured out here in Virginia at that point, but just kind of was just like, we're going to take a leap. And I came back here. And about a month later, I got an offer to work at the Marine Science Center I work at now. And everything has just been peachy keen ever since.
Wow. Yeah. That's an adventure.
22 years in the making.
Yes. Okay, so when did y'all get engaged?
We got engaged. Our relationship started in 2017. We got engaged exactly 5 years later in Greece, in Santorini.
Oh my goodness.
We are go big or go home people.
Yes, we love that.
So it was the day of like our 5th anniversary of officially being together. We had hiked the island like earlier that day. I love hiking. It's my favorite hobby. So, we hiked on all these beautiful cliff sides overlooking, all these cute little Grecian towns, and overlooking into the Aegean Sea. And then we had a really nice dinner booked at a gorgeous restaurant that overlooked the Aegean Sea. And the dinner reservation was at sunset. And he gave me this excellent speech because he will tell you, like, I'm the better communicator in the relationship typically, but he had a good speech worked up. And proposed, at this beautiful rooftop dinner, and the most idyllic setting I've ever seen. And I've got a video of it. The sunset was like electric orange. It was perfect. And then I guess it was supposed to happen while he was saying his speech, but I'm actually glad it didn't because I have one of the staff members recorded it so you could hear what he was saying. But I guess my favorite love song was supposed to be playing at the same time, but it played right after. So he's like, I slightly jumped the gun on that. I'm like, it actually turned out better because then, and then we could just enjoy the song. And
what was the song?
Yeah. And it actually ended up being our first dance song. It is John Denver's Annie's song, which is lovely. She wrote for his wife at the time when he was on a ski lift and skied home and wrote the thing down. Yeah, it's a beautiful song. Yeah.
Love that. That's so beautiful. And so
it was very thoughtful.
When did you get engaged?
So this was September 2022. So we had a
Okay.
full 2-year engagement.
Okay.
And that was by design for a few reasons. So one, like I said, I'm not very demure. Is that still a thing? So I mean
It's enough of a thing still to know.
yeah, people will get it, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I listen. So I actually I wanted to get married out in the Southwest, but he did not think that he could talk a ton of his people into be willing to like fly for a wedding, which is perfectly understandable. That's a major expense and a major ask. So we decided to have the wedding in our home state in West Virginia, so people could have relative ease of access to the location.
Was there like original guest count that you were considering?
Yeah. So we invited 200 people exactly, minus
Okay.
ourselves. So we were there, so I
Yeah.
guess 202.
Yeah.
We had 96.
Oh, wow.
And yeah. So I'm always super shocked when people say, oh yeah, way more people said yes than we expected. Not for us.
The opposite.
Yeah. And we thought we were actually being, my idea was not to get married in West Virginia. That was his idea. But like the part of the state where we live, it's nice, but it's not the prettiest part of the state in either of our opinions. So, where the location that we got married at was at a ski resort that is about 3 to 4 hours away from most of where our family and friends and stuff live. For most people, that required at least a hotel night, right?
Yes. Sure.
It's a spendier area. So, I mean, there's an expense to it, right? Now we did send out save the days a year in advance. So y'all knew, and everybody's like, yes, we're absolutely going to be there. And then they were like, we actually have to give it a real response on this. I will say most West Virginia weddings are not on the fancy side, and this was black tie bougie to the nines. I think people were surprised they like actually had to give
Yeah.
answers. It wasn't just like you can show up for the buffet or not. It's like,
Yeah.
no, ma'am, no, sir. You have to give us a real answer. So
There's
we
a
actually
real
ended up
standard
we
here.
had expected to have like between 125 and 150, and obviously
Okay.
had a lot less. But I actually think it worked out better because the room still felt super full.
Two questions. One,
Mhm.
that you said it's not West Virginia, it's not like the fanciest state. Were there not a ton of venues to choose from to begin with? Okay. Got it.
Okay, so original budget, and this was not including honeymoon. Now I have included honeymoon at this point just because it was huge,
Yeah.
and we were gone for the better part of a month. Like it was a very intense expense. For the wedding itself, I was originally kind of saying like 90-ish, 95, because I mean, like I've told you, I am a super planner. I have looked at and one, I'm just really interested in weddings. I find all the pieces that make a beautiful day. I just find them very intriguing, and I like to know what those things
Me
cost. That's
too.
interesting.
Me
I don't
too.
like to lack awareness. I don't
Yes.
want to be blindsided about anything. So, I mean, I had been looking into this stuff for a very long time. We had known for years before we got engaged that it was endgame for
Yeah.
us. So it had been discussed to death by the point that we got engaged. So I mean, we had already. I mean, I've looked at plenty of things.
Okay.
So I really there
You were
was very
prepared.
little that I got sticker shock about. So I was thinking, so say like 95,000 ish, um, not including honeymoon. Our honeymoon was over $20,000. So if I would have included that, make that like 115 to 120, and we ended
Okay.
up with wedding plus honeymoon being 130. That's not bad when you're looking at a number that big
I think,
already.
yeah.
So I've watched some of your other shows and people were like double, and I'm like, ooh, that would have been a tough swallow.
Yes.
I was expecting to be a little under 100K, or hopefully with just the wedding, and then it wasn't. It didn't end up being all that
Okay.
different once we had everything. But at the end of the day, with wedding plus honeymoon, we were right at 130.
Okay. I think including your honeymoon is really smart. I know people have differing opinions on whether or not that should be included, but like you said, it's a large expense and shouldn't be forgotten about.
Right. And I mean, some people I know are totally fine. And it's, I mean, it's your time. It's your time as a newlywed. You should do what you want to do, right? And some people, choose to opt out of a honeymoon or do one like, at their 1 year anniversary, or just do a mini moon or something like that. Nope. Travel queen. So, and he knows, I mean, obviously we were in Greece, right?
Yes.
So I got him a trip to Aruba one year for his birthday. Like, I love to travel.
I love that.
So
I
that
love to
was just not
travel.
gonna happen. Travel's amazing. It's just you just get so many fresh perspectives, when you go
You
to
do.
these far-flung places. But ours was not relaxing at all.
Okay.
And it wasn't designed to be. So like it wasn't like, oh,
Okay.
we went and had a terrible time. We had a wonderful time. But we were in Peru for over 3 weeks.
Wow.
And it was, this was not hanging out at the beach in Lima. This was hiking the Andes. We
Wow.
did one hike that was over 17,000 feet, same elevation
Wow.
as Everest Base Camp. I know everybody's heard of the Inca Trail and how
Yeah.
hard it is. That's not the hardest way to get to Machu Picchu. The hardest way to get to Machu Picchu is something called the Salcantay Trek, and that's what we did.
Wow.
And it's a week-long
Adventure.
hike. It crests the pass that you go over, the highest point. That's at like a little over 15,300 feet. So I had a personal one of my expenses that I actually didn't include, but it was for this. I had a personal trainer for almost a year to prepare for this
Uh,
because
Wow.
we live at the beach at sea level.
Yes.
So I'm like, I need help.
Yeah.
Because I want to enjoy this. I don't want to, go have a miserable time. So yeah, I mean, we did some really serious fitness stuff to prepare for this, and we had to sign documentation saying that we agreed to do that because it was so physically intensive. Like they said,
Wow.
if you have not done a serious regimen and training program, you can't do this. And when we were signing like all these really scary medical waivers and, like what it would take to be evacuated out of a remote area like this where you're days from cell phone reception, Giuseppe looked at me and he said, "Now, are you sure you don't want to do something more chill?" And I said, "No, we had a conversation in August 2020 where you were like, hey, we can do Peru for the honeymoon whenever that comes if you want, because that has always been my number one bucket list trip to do is that hike and do all this stuff in the
Wow.
Andes." So we did that. And we also adopted a stray kitten that we found in the town outside of Machu Picchu, living in a pot of dirt by some train tracks and being attacked by dogs who were trying to eat it. So we smuggled a cat on a train. He lives in America now. Yep, he's a Virginian. We literally had to sneak him on a train outside of Machu Picchu because they would not, like, our airline was cool with it. All of our hotels were cool with it. We had to take him to their version of the USDA, which is called SENASA. Like, everybody was cool with it, but the rail line. I'm like, he just needs to sit on a train for an hour and a half while we get to our next location. Why does it matter? So we had to sneak this cat on a train. There were like a dozen people on our car, on the rail car, that were involved with this, including this guy who does photography work with Beyonce. Like, there were so many people involved. It was the most entertaining experience ever. So the little bits that I had, for like peaceful, chill moments in the honeymoon, then ended up with like, well, we got to take the cat for vetting and all this certificate stuff. So I need a honeymoon from my honeymoon. I'm so tired.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
and the cat's name is Honey for the
Okay.
honeymoon. So
That's
yeah,
appropriate. That's so sweet.
yeah,
That is
he's
so
adorable.
funny. That's quite the souvenir.
I know. So the honeymoon and the hefty budget on it. I mean, now I've got a new little housemate for hopefully many, many, many years to come. So the
Yes.
honeymoon was pretty priceless.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
so awesome. That's incredible. Okay, bring me
I'm sure you
to.
have not heard that in any of
No,
your
I
other
haven't. I'm
conversations.
actually hearing some of the most incredible stories ever.
Yeah.
That's a really great one.
I could go on about that for an hour, but I know that's not the focus of today.
I want to hear more about it. I love hearing that stuff.
Yeah.
I think that is the best ever. Okay,
Yeah.
so we have a venue that's a few
Mhm.
hours away from where all your guests are, and you have a budget. Tell me more.
So one thing is, I've heard almost everyone say, pick 2 to 4 main priorities and really spend your money there. I didn't do that. I had way more than that.
Okay.
So I was basically like, listen, this has been like a couple of decades in the making. We're grown. We're established. Like, we've been together for a really long time. Like, we're going to do this. We're going to do this right. And we're going to have all the stuff we want. So you were asking about venues. Yeah, the venue search, boy, there really weren't many mid-range venues. I mean, it was either like you're doing something really expensive, really, really nice,
Okay.
or you need to find, Billy Bob's tent or something. I mean, there was no in between. Some of the stuff that we scheduled visits for, like, we were appalled when we got there, and we're like, there's not even like a place for people to sit. We told you we were gonna have
Yeah.
like at 120 to 150 is what we were thinking. We were saying like 130, and people were showing us like spaces that like standing room would fit like 30 people. I'm like, why did you say, like,
Yeah.
why are we here? Giuseppe was actually pickier about the venue than I was, because there was one in southern West Virginia that I would have been cool with, but they were clearly having some staff transition stuff going on, and I was worried about who's in charge. This seems
Ye-
unorganized. But the space I thought was cool, and it was much more affordable than what we ended up doing. So we went to the ski resort. The area is called Snowshoe. It's beautiful. It is, the venues there. It's the highest elevation venue on the East Coast. So way up in the mountains.
Okay.
Yeah. And West Virginia is called the Mountain State. So,
Um,
so our venue was absolutely stunning. And they, with the packages that they offered, they include catering and bar, very quality catering. I mean, they've got like a James Beard awarded chef and things like
oh,
that. So I'm
wow.
like, okay, this is going to go well. And then that's just one less thing you have to deal with. The catering's there,
Yeah.
the bar is there, and it was a big full bar. So yeah, that was all great. I actually wrote down some of the most, I don't think they're ridiculous, but just the things that I feel like were kind of our big spends. I wanted, because we had a lot, especially with me, because I'd lived all over the country, so many places. It was kind of funny because it was like the West Virginians didn't want to travel like 3 or 4 hours, but then I had all these people coming from like Arizona and California.
That is so funny.
It's like making the effort, right? I'm like, see,
Is
we
that
should have had
kind
this
of
in
cultural
Southwest.
too? Like, is there like a cultural
I
piece
mean,
to that, you think?
yeah,
Like,
I think West Virginians don't tend to travel a lot, so my love of it is pretty unusual. But 3 or 4 hours to me, that's just not a big deal.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
we're 5.5 hours from the venue. Like, we were further away than they were. So, but I really wanted our like vibe to come through in everything that we did. So for me, that meant, like a really luxe mountain escape. Like, I described it to
Mm,
our planner, because she was, from Arizona, had never seen the space. I'm like, think about like a nice mountain getaway, like in Aspen or something for the weekend. It was kind of the vibe we were trying to get, but
okay.
just make it really, really luxe. Like I said, I'm a more is more person, and just kind of the verbiage that I would throw for people, because our wedding vibe was not the cookie cut. I mean, hey, to each their own, have what you want. It was not the cookie cutter, like everything is blush and beige, and this was, it's baby's breath and
Yes.
children, and it's very quaint. I described ours as grown, glam, and sexy,
I love that.
and it was. So okay, so we had the venue, the catering, the bar, all that together was at about 30K, which
Okay.
I felt was perfectly fine considering the overall budget. Our planner, now, one expense that we had that most people probably don't, is because it's a really remote area of West Virginia, just out in the mountains, out in the middle of nothing. There aren't a lot of really quality service providers in West Virginia, so we were having to bring a lot of people from pretty far away. Like,
Okay.
hair and makeup came from DC. Obviously, my planner was in Phoenix. I'm
Yeah.
sure we could have got
So,
closer than that, but that was a personal tie.
yeah.
But even people in West Virginia, I mean, they were from 3-4 hours away. So we, for almost every single vendor, we were paying for travel, for a couple of nights a hotel, for
Okay.
so our travel expenditures for our vendors was very high, because we had to get everybody there.
When you saw collections and packages and pricing and stuff were coming in, was travel included within that, or were
Mm-mm.
people breaking it out? Okay.
Well, they broke it out for us, because I mean, if they're not having to do that for people, if it's local, it's not part of their packages. But
Sure.
yeah, I mean, we really weren't surprised
Yeah.
by that. People were mentioning that up front, which was kind. That would
Okay.
have been jarring to find out later.
Yeah.
But so our planner, with her travel and trips and stuff in, and I did partial planning, not full planning, because I wanted to plan myself. I spent about 8,000 there. Photography spent 7. Florals spent 12. I love
Okay.
florals.
We love florals.
And these are my big ones.
Okay.
Dress. Oh boy, dress.
Ooh.
See, like, people put like 2 or 3% of your budget on attire. I'm like, for who? So my dress came from New York City, and with with, I had one customization done to it, and alterations were pretty minimal, but alterations they had is a flat fee regardless of what you had done.
Okay.
So my dress was right at $10,000.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It involved 4 trips to New York City. So 1 to find what I wanted, and then 3 separate trips for alterations and pickup.
Did
So that
you
was
have
expensive.
that dress specifically in mind, or?
No.
Okay.
No, I had a lot of dresses that I had, researched and pulled up in advance that some of them I'd even had sent to certain stores that, like, say they had a couple of locations. Like, a lot of stuff I would see, it was like in New York, Miami, and LA, and say their LA store had it. I had it sent there before I got there. So made the appointments
Okay.
well in advance. But the dress I ended up with, it was very much in the style. People say I picked something totally different than what I thought I would. No, I picked something exactly like what I expected to find.
It was never one on my Pinterest board.
People are like, oh, I was so surprised. I'm like, no, I own a lot of formal wear. I like getting fixed up and stuff. I knew what my style would be.
Yes.
And it was grown, glam, and sexy. It was. So yeah, the style of it was absolutely what I expected, but I had not seen that specific like style number before. So I mean, it was just instant love. I fell in love. Hair and makeup. I actually feel like I got away with that pretty well. Like I said, I mean, I had quite frankly, she's mostly like does like celebrity makeup, but
wow.
In the DC area. So, but she just worked on it was just me, my mom, and I had a matron of honor. Like we did just best man and matron of honor, and that was really helpful to not have to, do all these expenses for
have a large bridal party.
And I feel like that's definitely becoming more common in general, and it's just less opinions in the room too. So we spent about $3,500 there, and then I did a ton of skin prep stuff, like microneedling with a dermatologist, ridiculously fancy facials and all that stuff. I spent like $4,000 on like skin.
When did you start doing that? Because I was actually talking with an esthetician, and I was like, I would love to have you on and talk about that. 10 months?
10 months prior. Yeah.
Okay.
We had a live painter. That was awesome. And that is
awesome.
That was $5,000. We rented a Maserati, like very obnoxious people. This wedding was ridiculous.
Glam.
We rented a Maserati. Everybody thought that it was so fun. We should have just ran with it. Everybody thought that we had bought it. And they were like, oh, look at Renee and Giuseppe's new car. And like people were doing like a little photo shoot with it. It was awesome.
That's amazing.
And the one that I thought would really interest you, because I don't feel like I've heard other people say this, is stationery.
Ooh.
Because like I said, my mom's a librarian. I'm a paper person. I love tangible things. I know some people do Evites, but man, that's not for me.
I think it's so important. I mean,
yeah, and I'm gonna show you.
Yes, please.
Okay.
So beautiful.
We didn't want to dress to ourselves because how else do you do this?
You should.
So this is how custom this was. So our main color was teal, like I said, not baby blush for me. Look at
we love color.
See this on here. I'm a color girl. I'm a bold color girl. Look at the fun mountain envelope liner.
Watercolor.
Yeah. So, and then like so many different cool pieces of this. Like this is our little the RSVP card is pretty standard.
Okay.
That's in there, but check this out. Our details card is in the shape of West Virginia.
My goodness, I love that.
And then
it's so fun for people coming from other states.
I know. People were especially for my friends who had never been to West Virginia before, they were so excited. And here's like the front of our invitation. We have like this whole moody forest vibe. The wax seal with the gold flecking in it. It's an eagle. And we had her have an eagle soaring up here because the ceremony site was called the Soaring Eagle Lodge.
I love that. It's all in the details.
And on the back, we've got this sign that says Snowshoe Forever Wild, which is a sign at the bottom of the mountain.
Oh, wow.
And we took newlywed photos down there, and we've got some snowshoe hares cuddling at the bottom of the sign.
My goodness.
Yep.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So I went in hard on the stationery.
I love that was a priority.
Yeah. The all of the day of stationery products like the seating chart, and I felt like I was really clever because it was West Virginia, and West Virginia state song is John Denver's Country Roads Take Me Home, right?
Yeah.
So I had her make a sign with this same,
Color.
like the envelope liner with the mountains and the trees. So she used that background. And at the top of it, I had her write, like in quotations, country roads take me home to the seat where I belong. And we had her put John Denver probably.
That's so fun.
Probably said this, right? And then we named all of the tables after like a beautiful location in West Virginia. So we didn't have table numbers, we had table places. So, and they were all
Table
West Virginia.
places.
So, like, my favorite place in the state is called the New River Gorge. It's a new national park. It's stunning. So, like, we had the New River Gorge table. We had the
Okay.
Snowshoe table. We had tables named after state parks, like Blackwater Falls State Park. Like, it was so cool. So, just all these really, and like the Greenbrier is in West Virginia. We had a Greenbrier table. So, just all these really iconic locations. And we had, you know, like a picture of each of them. And we had them in these golden frames at the tables. And it was really cool.
That's so thoughtful too.
And then the place cards, like they were like all different little mountain scenes, and we had 4 different entree options. So your little mountain scene was the color, you know, color coordinated for the staff. We had these beautiful like teal menus, and then it had some of our like, you know, floral accent colors, fall colors, and we had gold put on that.
I love teal in the fall. I feel like that's not, like I won't see that often.
Here I am in a teal shirt. I love teal.
Okay.
So our florals, like we had like peaches and soft oranges, cranberries and plums, so really rich, warm fall colors. And then I wanted to balance it, complement it, you know. And blue greens are just they're soothing and they're universally pleasing on everyone and everything, I feel. Now my mom, it was really funny because she was wanting to, you know, get a teal formal gown, and she's like, there's none to be found. She bought 9 dresses.
Stop it.
And she would send me pictures of them, and I said, well, Mom, there are no teal dresses left because you have collected them all like baseball cards.
That's hilarious.
But there's not. I mean, when you go and look at the stuff, it's like everything is blush, everything is champagne, everything is navy, everything is white. So, I mean, if you do something that's not the typical color scheme, you're gonna have a time. I mean, you're gonna have to do a lot more research to find things that you like, but it was totally worth it. I loved our colors. Everybody, I mean, even our venue manager, he said, I've never seen this color combination in this room, and I want to see it every day now.
That's such a compliment.
It looked so nice. Yeah. It was lovely. But with all the day of stationery, and the bar sign thing was really cool because we had, so the watercolors, I want to be clear, that was like digital watercolor. Like it's not actual hand painted. So
Okay.
I do want to be clear on that.
I mean, I know it's through a screen, but I don't know that I would be able to tell the difference.
Yeah, I think that would be really hard to do. But yeah, it was digital watercolor. So for our actual bar sign, we had an artist do actual watercolor, and we had it digitized by a different artist so we could put it on the sign, right? And
Okay.
look professional and look cohesive with everything else. So it was actually one of my planner, one of her former brides is an artist and does a lot with watercolors. So she connected the two of us, and one of her other brides made art for my wedding that I then had. Yeah, so then, you know, we had it digitized for our stationer, and then she did, you know, like the font and all that stuff and finalized the product. So it was really cool to even get connected with other brides.
Yes, planners are the coolest. They know the coolest people too.
I know it.
I love that. Okay, so were there any like unexpected things that popped up? I know you said the guest list was one. Less people coming than you had imagined.
So I know, you know, we're talking about, I mean, was it worth it? So
Yes.
I'll pull it back to that. I mean, like I said, the vast majority of everything was delightful, but there's no way that you can plan something for 2 straight years and nothing ever go wrong, right?
Yeah,
Although
true.
nothing went wrong on our wedding day. People say always something happens. I feel like I've won some type of special award because nothing went wrong. But anyway,
you do some sort of crown somewhere.
I need at least a sticker or something. I worked really hard. But a couple of things for me, there were a couple of things that it's just like there were very few. Obviously, I just went through a giant list of things we spent big money on, but there were a couple things that I'm like, all right, even I'm going to say that's ridiculous. One, like our venue provided, like, you know, we did linen rental and napkin all that stuff because they didn't have teal and peach on it and stuff like that, or, you know, they had white and black, right?
Oh, okay.
Which is pretty standard, right?
Yes.
but they had gold charger plates, and they're pretty good looking. And our metallic, metallic for the wedding was gold. So we're like, well,
Okay.
this could work. But we had seen, like these gorgeous wooden chargers online that were pretty natural looking, and we thought it kind of tied in. Like this was very glam and elegant, but we had like slight accents of natural mountain stuff to kind of keep it
Yeah.
naturey mountain
Yeah.
focused, right? Like
You're at a
our
ski lodge on the mountain.
exactly, right. So a very nice lodge, but
Yeah.
a lodge
Yeah.
nonetheless. So like our guest book was actually this giant tree slab that people signed and engraved with our date and stuff, and it's hanging on the wall. It's really cool.
That is the coolest.
So we had some touches of, like wooden pieces, right? And like the room that we got married in the ceremony, like it was all this gorgeous wood. So we wanted these wooden chargers, and like per plate, they were like $10 a plate. I'm like, for the plate, under the plate, no. Because I can't. And I was looking, I'm like, we could basically buy these for the same price, but then I don't know what we're gonna do with 100
Yeah,
charger
what are you gonna do
plates.
after them?
I don't think I can pawn these off on anybody. So we just stayed with what they had, the gold plates. And honestly, they
Okay.
looked, our menus had the gold flecking on them and stuff. So it looked really nice. And we had rented gold utensils, gold flatware too. So I think it actually turned out better that we left that alone. For me, things that weren't worth, people tell you, get all this different random stuff off of Etsy or Amazon or I don't think we got anything off of Amazon, but the Etsy stuff I felt was very hit or miss. Like we did the one part of signage that we didn't do with our stationer because we just bought it such a long time ago and it was beautiful was our welcome sign. Now it came off of
Okay.
it was lovely. But then I ordered other things, not many things because it wasn't working out well. But it wasn't anything that was a big deal. Like our card box. I
Okay.
ordered and it was like almost $200 and I got it and I mean it was just very, very poorly made. Like very, very and Giuseppe said, he's like, you didn't pay more than like $20 for that, did you? And I was like, add another zero. He was like, are you serious? And I remember like the creator emailed me and I just like, at this point, I don't even care. It'll be fine. And I remember the creator was like, oh, I'd love to create more products for a wedding. I was like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
No, I'm fine. So I'm really glad that we ended up doing all the day of stationery products with, the stationer who did our invitations.
Okay.
We had just planned to do the invitations because they were very expensive and we hadn't originally planned on spending that much on day of products. I'm very glad we did because we originally had someone else to do it. So it was actually, this is like,
Did something happen with the other person?
yeah, only pick legitimate vendors with like
Okay.
real contracts who are actually established because, like I said, my mom works at that high school. So I kept telling her, I was like, I'm having a really hard time because I want these really custom products. I mean, how much I was just like how detailed and authentic these were, right? And I said, I can't find anything like this on Etsy and stuff people are telling me to do. So she approached an art teacher at where she works. And she didn't ask her, like, hey, would you like to do this? She said, hey, my daughter's getting married. I know you teach art. She said, do you know of anyone who creates like wedding products like this? Didn't say, do you do it? She said, do you know of anyone? And she's like, oh, I do that. I love doing things like that. And I was like, oh, well, that was easy. Cool. So my, now husband and I got on a Zoom call with her and she seemed a little odd.
Okay.
But she said she was going to do this stuff, and we booked her like a year in advance. And she was supposed to have all products done for us by the first week of September. She said she would do it before that because she wanted to have it done before they went back to school, the school year, which starts like in early August for them. She just never did anything. Nothing. So the calls with her kept getting more and more frantic. And the things that, like, if she would send like a little like mock of something, I think she sent one or two mock-ups, like nothing actually created. And they were really bad, like really
bad. Okay.
And she's like, hey, go pick the paint collars at Home Depot. And I'm like, you just buy like a gallon of Home Depot paint? I don't think that's
not how this is working.
And then so I did go and pick, the closest things I could to what I thought would work. Cause this was for example, like our place cards. And we wanted the same colors as the floral. So we had like a soft orange, a cranberry, a plum, and like a tealish blue green, right? So I gave her the paint names. She goes and buys, she's like, those don't exude fall in West Virginia to me. So she goes and gets like a highlighter yellow and all that. And I'm like, no, ma'am, I don't want a construction cone in my wedding. Thank you. the last call we had with her was like, hey, like she was supposed to come to the meeting and show us the products that she had made over the summer. She didn't do it. She's like, well, yeah, I don't have good time management. So I've just got to sit down and do it last minute. I'm like, that's not. I've got to have
Red
something from you
flag.
this week. So
Yeah.
she's like, I'm not going to do that. So luckily, our stationer was awesome and was able to create all of these things for us for what was probably an okay timeline, but for me felt really last minute because I'm used to doing everything well in advance.
Yeah, and you'd be working with somebody.
And I mean, we were still paying this woman relatively well, but not the price that we paid the professional stationer. So what I learned from that is you get what you pay for. And don't do this all this crap about, like, don't tell people it's for a wedding. Tell them it's for your wedding. One, that is obnoxious to not tell your vendors that. Two, the level of effort, planning, etc., is so much higher for a wedding than like your corporate event or your birthday. Not to, I mean, I love birthdays, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't as big as my wedding. So
Yes.
that's not the same level of commitment. So you should pay more for your wedding, as far as I'm concerned.
We could wrap that up in a bow right there.
Pay for your wedding. Don't lie to your vendors.
Don't lie to your vendors.
Don't do
Don't
it.
do it. No.
Don't do it.
Be honest
Don't do
and trust them. Yeah. I mean, that is kind of wild. So how far out did that happen before the wedding?
Gosh. So like I said, we booked her almost a year in advance, and she was supposed to send us stuff like the February before. I mean, like months and months and months before the wedding, but she was supposed to get most of this done over the summer. And like I said, the teachers where she works go back to school like the first week of August. So this conversation was very late July. Because we're like, hey, we haven't received anything. You've got like a week and a half to go. How's it going? Professionalism is very important to me. And you know what? That was something that I tried to be very clear with every vendor, including her. But with every vendor up front, I said, like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, I'm a big time planner, and I don't expect anybody to answer like that. But like, I do expect timely communication. I'm not going to get ghosted for weeks on end and stuff. Like, a good clear line of communication is super important to me. Like, that's got to happen, or we're not a good fit for each other. And I told everybody that on the front end, like, this is what I expect. My expectations are really high, and I'm willing to pay for it to be that way. So treat me like that.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, I think that's important too when you're looking for vendors, is how quickly, how much do you want to be in communication with them and how responsive they are.
Yeah.
And then I think that goes both ways too. I'm like, if you reached out to me, like, I feel that way as a vendor. I'm like, you reached out to me. I'm responding to you. Yeah. Where did you go?
Where'd you go?
I thought you.
Something I noticed. So, like I said, we had a lot of vendors from out of state. They were almost always quicker to respond than the West Virginia vendors, because they live life slow over there. I don't mean every single person, but I mean there was a major trend.
Yeah.
That I noticed. I was just kind of like, I guess it is a cultural thing, but I'm like, hey, I don't want to send you the same email or text 8 times. Just answer my question.
Yeah.
Or say yay or nay. Like,
yeah.
Let's just get
yes. Yeah, that is interesting that you notice the difference between the people coming in from, you say California and Arizona?
Well, those were my guests.
Those were your guests.
Yeah, those were, yeah, they were more willing to travel. No, as far as vendors, I mean, I had a couple of Phoenix-based vendors, and they're super responsive. I had some DC area-based people, very responsive. I had some people in Pennsylvania. So, I mean, it was, like a 4 to 5 hour drive for them and stuff, like Pittsburgh area. They were all pretty responsive. But yeah, West Virginia was if I had it to do over, I loved our wedding. It was absolutely perfect. But I'm like, I would have fought you on that location between here and West, because we would have then, I could have used like my planners, like full recommended like list of people, because I was able to use the stationer she recommended, and that ended up being like my best vendor relationships. Like, man, all of it could have been like this versus chasing down the art teacher from the school.
Funny. It was on brand.
So, yeah.
Okay, so tell me about the actual wedding day.
It was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. Something I thought was a little bit funny, because like your time is so limited, right? And, I had a couple of things that I needed time to do that morning. Well, one, I set up till 5 in the morning. saying my vows over and over again out loud. And I wasn't going to go to sleep. But, I got up like 3 hours later,
That is so
showered and
funny.
everything. And I kept having vendors come in, and I think they just were like, it's happy, let's talk. Like, they just kept coming in and talking. I was like, guys, I gotta dry my hair, and like I have to write a letter for Giuseppe.
Yeah.
Our hair and makeup was supposed to start at 11:15 because we had a 5 p.m. ceremony, and it was just me, my mom, and my matron of honor, so we didn't have to start at the crack of dawn, which was awesome. So I thought I kind of had that time between like 8 and 11 to be left alone. No, it's Grand Central Station.
Not. Yeah.
But yeah, no, once the day like got going and people are moving around and stuff, I'm not like just a woo, just happy for no reason kind of person. But I have never felt, this absolutely, and I mean this in the best of ways, just this overwhelming sense of joy and happiness and excitement that I didn't know that people could achieve. I don't know if everybody feels this all the time. My planner described to me like, I just want you to, feel all this love and stuff on your day. And I was thinking like, that sounds a little over the top. But then it happened and I was like, oh my God, it actually feels that way.
I love it.
Actually that perfect. My husband's spouse, I don't know. I say to him every now and then, I'm like, I still can't believe you wrote that. It was very, very touching for a lot of reasons. Like, I've been to a lot of weddings and I've never heard vows like that, man. I was like, these are for me. I'm all in. But no, and we also did dance lessons. So we had a choreographed first dance, and it involved like a big major dramatic lift, and everybody was like, woo! Everybody, we got excitement around the first dance. And we were so afraid we were going to mess that dance up because my dress was hard to move around in. So I was super proud. It went off without a hitch. And our DJ absolutely crushed it because I'm particular. I'm not a fan of what I consider to be corny, like the group dances. And by the time that we get to like we're done with first dance and we're opening up the dance floor, it's going to be a rager. It's going to be wild. And that dance floor did not quit. It was like people kept coming up to me and they're like, I swear I just need to walk away for a second to take a breath. But then he starts the next song and I'm like, oh my God. Like,
where did you find your DJ at?
No, he was in West Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah, no, he was absolutely great. He was super respectful, really, really receptive to what I wanted to do. The DJ is I'm not gonna say the biggest, but that really sets like the vibe of the night.
Yes, it does. It really does.
He crushed it. We wanted professionals. It wasn't just going to be like, well, I guess we can make it through and work with whoever. It's like, no, we're paying these people good money. They need to do what they were signed on to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like DJs maybe have a little bit of a bad rap because it's easy to be unprofessional. I don't know. And that personality probably lends itself.
Yeah, well,
but there's some good ones out there.
I met one person who I was just like, I hope I never see you again. And one person I was like, I would love to work with you every day. Something that my planner and a couple of my other vendors said. They said now, typically, if there's going to be a vendor who's a problem, it's almost always the DJ.
Really?
Yeah, that's what was shared with me.
I've changed.
Did you really?
Yes. My sister ended up getting married before me, and the DJ did her wedding, and I was like, absolutely not fun. It was not the vibe. I was like, no, I want to have fun. I like having fun. So,
well, I think we've all been to a wedding where the music it was just lackluster and it was more awkward than fun.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so if you had to give a piece of advice to somebody planning a wedding, what would it be?
Can I give a couple?
Well, I would love a couple. I was hoping for one. I'd love a couple.
No, I have so many tidbits. And so many people get like aggravated with wedding planning. It's like, it's this amazing time. And you're like, I loved this so much. I know I've shared this with you, but I'm actually in the middle of starting, getting my own wedding planning company up and running.
We're so excited.
I don't ever want this to stop. This is the best thing I've ever done. And I want to get this joy and this happiness and this fun to other couples. So
I love that.
That was not my piece of advice, but I would say the thing for me, the biggest thing is have the day you want to have, right? Don't be afraid to stand up for yourselves. You are your own best advocate. with vendors, with family if they're trying to overreach, with whoever or whatever it is. Have the day you want to have and stand strong in that, because you hopefully will only be doing this
Yes.
once,
Yes.
right? You won't get this again. And it makes me so sad when I talk to loved ones who tell me how much they regret like letting a family member drive the day and make it something that didn't match their vision or their dream at all, or they let a vendor maybe even unknowingly on the vendor's part kind of bully them into doing
Mm-hmm.
things that they're not okay with. So stand up for yourself, like tell people what you want
Yeah, I
and
like that.
set those boundaries. That's super important. So and also I've just talked about these amazing feelings. Like the feelings are so intense. Drink them in.
Yes.
It really can be the best day of your life if you let it. Like, you've got this.
I love that you
So
said that. If you let it.
if you let it, right? I know there's a lot of people out there who say, oh, it's just one day. I mean, yeah, it's one day. It's a day that you'll reflect on for the rest of your life. And if you let it be this amazing day, you can reflect on it so
Mm,
happily and fondly. Like
yes.
we look at our photos and our videos constantly. I'm
Mm,
obsessed.
fully
That
so.
great. I have people coming into like my coworkers who were there who come into my office all the time, just like, yeah, I was just thinking about your wedding day today and how that was like the best thing I've ever been to. I mean, not only was it a perfect day for us, all these other people we really care about had an amazing time. They're
Mm,
just like, that was the best wedding experience I've ever had. And I want other people to get to feel like that was just, there was so much love, so much happiness, so much authentic, creative stuff that makes you guys who you are.
yes.
Like lean into that and enjoy. Let it happen. Stand by it so you get it and let it happen.
I love that.
Feel it. Feel it. Feel
And
this. If there was ever a time for big feelings, this is the feelings
yeah.
time.
It's the good feelings time.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
really like, and I think there's a whole emotional journey that happens on the wedding day, and there's lots
Mhm.
of big families coming, or big families, big feelings coming from lots of different people, and to be able to experience all of them is part of it. And but like I think the foundational one is joy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. I didn't think that that was a word that I would use constantly after to describe the day. And I'm just like, oh, it was such a joyous day. All the time now. Maybe I'm becoming an optimist thanks to my wedding.
Look at you. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. It changed me. We've laughed about this, like the Barbie movie and Ken his job is
Oh,
beach,
yes.
and
Yeah.
they're like they say you're so good at beach and he's like, you were so good at bride. I was like,
That is so that
I
could be like
know.
a
I love
tagline or
bride.
something for your business. To
Does
like
bride so well.
yeah. I think that like also from a vendor perspective and thinking about or going forward with starting your own business, there's a different type of joy that comes from helping these couples and their guests experience the best day ever. It's a really rewarding and a different type of hard work type of joy, so I'm excited for you to
I'm super excited for that too. And I know just, a big part of who I am, like I absolutely, you talk about the love languages and stuff like that. I'm the giving and receiving gifts person. I
mm,
love gift giving. So to me, like this is a gift, being
mm,
able to guide people along this journey that can be very stressful, in parts and very challenging. But the ultimate goal is, you get this incredible forever love. You get all this joy. You get all these people you care about. And it's just, you helped them get to this perfect time, so
yes.
I'm super excited about all of it.
I'm so excited for you, and I'm
Mhm.
so happy you would come and share your entire adventure. Okay, my very last question for you.
Always very enthusiastic to share.
And it's just so pleasant to listen to too. You kind of already answered, but I just have to ask for real, was it worth it?
Oh my god, yes. Like I said, I might argue with him about the place, but honestly, like all the West Virginia touches, it ended up being adorable.
Mm,
I loved being able to bring, my connections from all over the country together to see like we're, very near
yeah.
where we grew up and things like that, and somewhere that we recreated as West Virginians. Snowshoe's the place for that kind of stuff. So yeah, I would do it again and again. I'd spend even more money if I had it. I know so many people who are like, yeah, I wish we just would have eloped, wish we would have done, this, that, and the other with our money instead. And I know people always say, you should have spent that on a house instead. We already have a house. We got a house. I'm not worried about this.
Yeah,
It's here. I mean, I'd love a nicer house at some point, but I'm not buying a new house in this market.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm not trying to do that. I can't think of anything I rather would have spent money on. I heard something relatively recently from not my planner, but a planner, and she's like, people online really like to shame people who spent a lot of money on their wedding. It's a major thing. You go to any visual of a nice wedding, be it Instagram or something, and there is a fight going on in
Yes.
the comment thread where, and it's always women, unfortunately, where women are trying to outpour each other in these comments. And they're like, well, I had a wedding for 300 people for $1,000 and I wore a potato sack and it was stunning. And all of my guests loved it and said it was the best thing they've ever been to. No, they did not. They did not love that. I'm sorry. So, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But the comment was, stop counting other people's money. Like, just let people have the day they want to have.
100%.
If you don't want to spend your money on, an over the top, a really curated wedding experience like we did, that's fine. But it was really important to us. It was very important to me. And we wanted to not only have this wonderful day for ourselves, but to create an awesome experience for our loved ones who all traveled to get there. Everybody made an effort to get there. And we wanted to show them how appreciative we were of that. And we wanted them to legitimately have a really good time. And they did, So
love that you provided that. I love that you provided that experience for the people that you love. And I think that that's what it comes down to. On top of like mindsets around money, which is why, like literally what you said is one of the reasons I started this podcast, is I think there's a lot of stigma and judgment around spending money on investing in your wedding day. And I don't think there should be.
When people just minimize it to say it's just a party, no, it's not.
It's not.
Your wedding day is not just a party. I have been to many a party that I have enjoyed, and I've never, when leaving, to go to someone's wedding, if I'm speaking, to a friend or my mom or, what are you doing? I don't say, oh, I'm going to a party.
Yeah.
I say, I'm going to whoever's wedding and I'm really excited to be going to this wedding. It's not.
Yes.
Like, yeah, you party at most weddings, but it's not a party.
It is not a party. It is a party, but it is a wedding.
But I will never minimize somebody's thing to say it's just a party, because it's a forever commitment. Like, it is such a special moment that is fully deserving of whatever you want to invest on it, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah.
Renee, that was incredible. Yes.
Yeah.
I love that so much. Agree 100% with everything you said. So thank you so much.
I loved this conversation, Melissa. I could talk to you all day, every day.
I know. I could talk to you too. We'll have to have you back on when you officially start up your business or something.
Yeah, let's get me a couple of couples going and stuff, and I'll come in with an update about how it's going. I can tell you how they feel about pricing.
Yeah. Love that. Okay, let's chat soon. Thank you so much for joining us. If you were recently married, or if you know somebody who was recently married who might be super fun to chat with about their wedding planning journey and how they decided to allocate their funds and how everything came together, you can find us on Instagram at Wed and Worth It. There's a form within that bio you can fill out, or just feel free to send us a DM. Thanks so much, and we'll catch you next time.